Welcome to the Pitchwerks podcast. I'm Scott McTaggart. Over the last 20 years, I've been a sales rep, a marketer, a manager, an executive, a consultant, and an advisor. This show is designed to give you access to my list of contacts so that you can learn more about how to present your ideas at work and succeed in your career.
Startups and salespeople, marketers and managers from the Epicast Network in Pittsburgh. It's the Pitchwerks podcast.
You got to remember, what we focus on in law enforcement is I want the facts. I can't put I believe, or I can't put I think, or
would it be nice?
Possibly.
Yeah.
It's got to be, hey, here's the facts. This weapon's 50,000 volts.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Pitchwerks podcast. It's Scott McTaggart. Today, we're talking to Brandon Womack. Brandon is the jack of all trades within the security industry. He owns a training and consulting business. He owns a guard services business. And he's also the executive vice president of a company called Phazzer Electronics, which is actually just a fascinating study. And we're going to spend a lot of time on that today. Phazzer makes a less than lethal conductive energy weapon. It's what you would use instead of a gun, to make sure that you're not using lethal force when you don't have to. And, for a lot of security people, a lot of security personnel, this is a very important part of their toolbox. So Brandon, as the executive vice president of Phazzer, has some good news to share with us today. And he's going to help us sort of chart out where their David and Goliath story, as he likes to call it, where that's headed. They were the challenger up until very recently against the name we all know, which is Taser. And so far, so good. They've survived an existential threat to their business. And we're going to find out a little bit more about how they did that and what's in store going forward. Sitting here with Brandon Womack, and Brandon wears a lot of hats. Brandon, we're going to start talking about some of them, but how about if you start off by introducing yourself to the fine folks in Pitchwerks land?
Hey guys, my name is Brandon Womack. I am the executive vice president of Phazzer Electronics. I'm also the chief executive officer for Homeland Intelligence and the majority partner of Blue Line Training and Consulting.
So are you sure you have enough to do?
I might add something else to my repertoire, but we'll see.
Are you serious?
I think so.
There's something in the works.
There's something in the works that I'm just going to silent partner a little bit on.
I love that.
You know what? You have to wear multiple hats these days. So, just keep it moving.
You're not wrong. And that's actually, first off, thanks for coming in.
Absolutely. It was my pleasure to be here.
So I've known Brandon for years now, and that was when you were teaching. You were actually teaching in the area of security and criminal justice.
I was actually teaching part-time at the Pittsburgh Technical College, and then I focused a little bit more on the training side, and I was still the assistant director of public safety and criminal investigator for the college. So it was a natural kind of transition into the training and the security company background.
So, okay, let's kind of set the stage. Who's at home?
So I have 5 kids.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I got one for you if you want.
Lay it on me.
And I also have a wife at home.
Okay.
So she keeps me in line.
So how old are the kids?
My kids range from 13 to down to 7.
Okay.
So they keep me.
Oh yeah, that's not really a range.
No, but
that's like a big school of fish.
It is.
It's like all around the same age.
I got 4 boys, 1 girl, and the girl matches all 4 boys at the same time. So.
And then your wife is taking a lot of the shots for you. She's laying herself down on the line for you so you can do all these other things.
Listen, she's a gem. I mean, I couldn't do it without her, to be honest. She's my backbone. There's so much stuff that I do and I have to travel on and I have to be out and about in the field. And, there's days where she has enough of it and lets me know, but at the same time, she supports me in all these decisions.
I can't even imagine having 5 children. I mean, my hat's off to you for that and your wife. I mean, that's obviously, the most important job there is. And that's not me being, cliche or patronizing. I mean that, it's like raising kids the right way is a hard job.
It is.
Let's go through very quickly. Vice president, is that correct? Vice president at Phazzer Electronics.
Correct.
Okay. And then you're the chief executive at Homeland Intelligence Protection Services.
That's correct.
And you're the managing partner, was it?
I'm the majority partner. Blue Line Training Consulting.
Okay. Now, break that down for me. Are you doing 5 days a week or are you doing 7? Let's be honest.
It's always 7.
It's always 7.
It's always 7. It's always, technology is great in a way, But going back to my wife, she yells at me because it's checking 3 or 4 email accounts every hour or so.
Absolutely.
Because ultimately, you don't want to lose the option, the business. You know, somebody emails you, says, "Hey, they expect a response back fairly quickly." So, a big part of this is technology. And, you sleep, wake up. First thing I do is look at my phone, see if there's any emails I have to respond back to, and trying to prioritize the day from there.
Yeah. I don't think you can undervalue time management.
It's hard sometimes.
But then here comes technology.
Right.
Right. And technology wants to step all over it. Or at least, how about this? The temptation exists to step all over your time management.
It does. It does. Because it's hard, especially in the business I'm in, to manage the whole day. Because as soon as you think you have this all laid out, I'm going to do this, something happens.
Well, and you also mentioned the customer. Right?
Exactly.
You cannot, as much as we would love to make this very tidy, like a nice Excel spreadsheet where you go, from 8 to 12, I'm working at Homeland, and at 1 o'clock, I'm going to pivot over to Phazzer, right?
Never works.
That's not how that works.
It kind of mingles throughout the day. You get a call from the CEO of the company or the CEO of Phazzer, and they're just like, "Hey, I need you to do this, take care of this." And you're like, well, you can't tell a COO, say, "Listen, I'm going to need about 3 hours."
Right.
Because a lot of times it's time critical.
I got to sneak out because my other business is calling.
And that's the hard part of this,
Of course.
is managing all 3 of the businesses.
But how are you feeling about all of it?
I'm good. I've been really put in a position to be successful. And, with the support of my family and things like that really help on that.
I'm going to call you on that. You said you were put into a position.
I was put in a position.
Who put you in the position?
Life.
Come on now.
Life. And
Get real with me.
That's real.
No.
Life, absolutely.
That's somebody dodging the question.
No.
Here's what really happened.
Go ahead. Let me hear this one.
Right?
Go ahead.
You set out a goal for yourself, and you're not there yet. So you started working towards it, and opportunities presented themselves. This isn't something that happened to you. I have to call you on this.
I get that aspect of it.
I hate when people make that assumption about people that are having success. They go, "Oh, well, it happened to them."
Right. And I agree. And there's been doors that have opened up, and, it was my option to walk through those doors or not.
Right.
Here's the one thing about my goals. I'll never reach them. And I know a lot of people are saying, "Wait, you set goals." Exactly. Because when I do reach that goal, I extend that goal to something bigger. And I can't focus and say, "Hey, once I accomplish this, we're a small mom and pop security company."
Right.
And, we started off with $200,000 in revenue.
Yeah.
It wasn't a lot. We're mom and pop. But, next year we'll exceed over $1 million in revenue in 3 years.
Right.
So we're small, like I said, mom and pop. But my goal was, hey.
You're talking Homeland right now.
We're talking Homeland Intelligence. I have an office here and an office in Philadelphia.
Okay.
So between the two, we'll do it right around $1 million in revenue. Or this will be a first time.
That's tremendous.
Absolutely. For a mom and pop. And now we're a year and a half old. Right now we'll be 2 years in March.
So let's just tackle that for a second. Homeland Intelligence and Protective Services.
Yep.
What was the origin of that? What made you decide to get into that business?
So as I told you before, I was the assistant director of public safety at the college. And mingling with some of the guys from the security industry and different people. And believe it or not, one of the guys that owned a company called Pennsylvania Private Police, which was based out of Philadelphia, said, "Hey, I kind of want to team up and do something with you." And one thing led to another. He was in my class for a Phazzer training class, actually. I was teaching it. And he came to me and said, "Listen, let's partner up and maybe do something." I said, "All right, let's talk." And months transpired of us communicating back and forth. And I said, "Okay, let's do it."
Yeah.
We came up with the name. We started the business together. Since then, unfortunately, our partnership dissolved and it's just me now. But that's the nature of the beast. But that was my, hey, I'm in this realm now. I'm in this category and I'm going to grow and push forward.
So you saw the opportunity. But at that point, Blue Line already existed. Phazzer already existed. And I have to believe there were some pretty serious conversations around the Womack family dinner table about where's the time going to come from.
There is. And there's always those conversations. And it's one of those difficult balances of trying to balance family life. Because, my kids are in basketball, they're doing cheerleading, they're doing different things, and you want to be there as much as possible. But at the same time, you have to put, food on the table and leave the roof over and things of those things.
Make sure that you're paying for 5 different college educations.
That's scary. I should have stayed at the college.
That terrifies me.
Time to get a job.
I've only got
college.
2 and that terrifies me.
Yeah, but you know what? It's it's ultimately just, making sure you have that supportive system.
Yeah.
And that's really what it comes down to, is the support at home, the support that, the kids are going to be taken care of, surrounding yourself with people that, Philadelphia, I'm there, once a month right now. I have great operations manager there. Chris Rodriguez runs my operations there. A guy named Tori Culverson runs my operations here. So I have those people in place to kind of lighten that burden. And it's important to have those people because you can't do it all by yourself.
Right.
Unfortunately, as much as I would like to say I'm just going to clone myself, having those different personalities and those different types of, work ethics and the way they talk and just the different types of demographics of those individuals. They know their community better than I do. So, it's one of those things of making sure that, you put the right people in place and surround your team with people that can really support you.
So what do you see as the leader of Homeland Intelligence? What is your list of tasks given in any week, right? So you're the chief executive.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you do and what do you make sure that you don't do?
Well, mainly my main goal is the financial aspects of things.
Okay.
To make sure we have money to pay our bills, to pay our employees, to pay the taxes, to pay all our operating expenses. And then another touch I make sure I put on to every one of my accounts is I go visit them.
Right.
It's a great thing to see your guards out there and in uniform and their patrol cars going around and our dogs out because we have two K9 units. That's great. But at the same time, I need to go out and touch my clients and say, what do I need to fix? Is there anything that we need to take care of? Make sure we're on the playing field that we need to take care of our client.
Now, tell me about Phazzer. Because, obviously, and you brought a couple of sample units here. This is a very serious product. This is a less than lethal defense tool, and I have to believe that your responsibilities are equally important.
Absolutely. And, it's a balance. It's truly a balancing act with Phazzer Electronics as well. We are the only competitor to Taser International.
Which everyone knows.
Everyone knows. It's like whenever I teach classes and try to give a comparison, I'm like, it's like Band-Aid. Everybody calls a Band-Aid a Band-Aid, even though that's your name brand.
Right.
They're really adhesive bandages.
Right.
It's kind of the same thing with a Phazzer.
Mm-hmm.
While Taser's the brand name, a lot of people are still going to call it, but they're really conductive energy weapons is what they're referred to.
But your responsibilities at Homeland Intelligence are significant.
They are.
And you said you're the vice president with Phazzer Electronics. Tell me what those responsibilities then look like.
So my responsibilities are similar. There's a lot of financial oversight I handle, but it's really, once again, putting people in places that as a company we can succeed. I do a lot with the sales side of things. I have a master's in legal, so a lot of stuff I deal with is the wonderful world of paperwork.
Yes. Everyone's favorite.
And unfortunately,
that's actually what we were going to call it too, the Paperwork Podcast. But as it turns out, nobody liked that name as much as Pitchwerks.
You know what? It is a paperwork nightmare. And, especially us being a newer company and going against, a Goliath of a company. You have a company that's been around since the early 80s.
I was going to ask, how much of a head start do they have?
They've been around since the 80s, and just about everyone knows them. So now we're trying to gain market share from a company that has thousands and probably millions of pages of documented reports and incidents and research studies and things of that nature. And they're based out of Arizona. And if you go look at Taser International headquarters, it's this big glass tower. And you're just like, here we are in this little sub office.
I'd like to have an office with a window, right?
That's it. It's like we're in a basement office at our office in Kissimmee. But you know what? It's the true David and Goliath story.
Right.
And that's what I tell everyone. It's here we are, once again, kind of a small mom and pop company that's a veteran-owned company that started in Nebraska.
Yeah.
With the French family. And, we did our research, we did our testing, and we're constantly improving the weapon system over time, and we're gaining market share. And that's really what we're working to do.
It's just one day at a time.
And we focused on, instead of going after your New York City Police Department or your Pittsburgh Police Department or LAPD, we focused on getting these small departments, 50 officers or so and less, to actually go forward with, hey, try our product. We're a 30% savings over Taser.
Right.
So for a department that maybe has 10 officers, that's $3,000 that's right to the bottom line budget.
Right.
So that's a huge hit and a huge savings for them to be able to say, hey, we got a comparable weapon. It shoots the same type of darts. And if they did have Phazzer, our cartridges are interchangeable. A lot of it deals with education. And it's one of those products that you have to educate someone on. And, I think that's the first step of any of this.
Yeah.
You're going to chiefs and, police officers in general, let's just put this out there because I was a law enforcement officer for years.
Yeah.
We're special. We're a special breed. And
Special how?
we don't like the bullshit. I mean, let's call it what it is. We don't like you to sit there and try to sell anyone.
Right.
We want to know about the product. We want the information. We want the knowledge. We want the test. We want to play with it. We want to touch it. We want to deal with it. But I don't want you to sit here and give me a sales pitch on this weapon.
Yeah.
I want the education. I want the facts. You got to remember, what we focus on in law enforcement is I want the facts. I can't put I believe, or I can't put I think, or
Would it be nice?
possibly.
Yeah.
It's got to be, hey, here's the facts. This weapon's 50,000 volts.
Here's the testing that was done by the Underwriters Laboratories or whoever it was.
Exactly. Swiss Institute. Here's the testing of, here's 27 agencies that are in your state that I can give you, and you call them and talk to them and see what type of deployment success they've had. But so that's where this weapon differs. We can't go in with a normal sales pitch of saying, hey, and some departments are about the budget. If you notice that department's in financial crunch and they're trying to just figure out how to staff their department, me telling them, hey, we're going to save you $300 per gun.
Yeah.
May be something they're interested in, but that's not my general approach to this. It's more, hey, let me give you this weapon. You feel it, you touch it, you deploy it, you find one of your new rookie officers and deploy it on them.
Yeah.
And now you have something.
Yeah. You still have to get into that room, though. That's the part that's the struggle, right? So are you doing trade shows? Or are you... Like, where do you begin the conversation?
So a lot of the conversation begins at what we call the SHOT Show. The SHOT Show is held in Las Vegas normally.
Like they all seem to be.
I know.
At the Sands Expo and Convention
And
Center.
unfortunately, I haven't made my way yet. They're not paying for me to go there. Maybe next year. And that's where a lot of our leads are generated.
Okay.
That's a chance for them to experience the weapon, things like that. The other way we're getting out there is we're actually teaching at a lot of the state level law enforcement academies.
Okay.
So, we go to Ohio and we teach twice a year in Ohio. And we allow those officers maybe to come in at a discounted rate or a discounted cost just to see the weapon.
Right.
So we do a lot of that stuff with the state level and letting those municipal officers or the small town officers come into the big conglomerate and save themselves some money by doing it that way.
Okay. So let's assume that I'm walking through and I realize you just said that, you're not really going to the show in Las Vegas, but let's assume for a moment that you're standing there in the booth and I happen to be walking by. And a lot of times you see they've got that chest badge so that the person in the booth can see exactly like what your first name is, where you're from, what's your title. Like basically it's the I'm worth talking to badge, right? Let's assume my badge says I'm worth talking to.
So you want it to say Chief.
Okay.
Chief Scott.
I'm Chief Scott. And I'm the sheriff around these parts.
Ooh, sheriff and chief are two separate things.
I know, that's what makes me laugh about it. All right. So you see me, you want to talk to me. What do you say next?
So first, it's a basic introduction. And what's nice about my position is I've been in law enforcement. So I know, hey, Chief, come here. Let me talk to you for a second. Have you heard of Phazzer? And that's where the education starts. Have you heard of Phazzer? And they're like, Taser? No. Phazzer. And they're like, no, I haven't heard of him. Well, and I grabbed one of the units, I hand it to him. Because most of the officers have already had the X-26, which is the current weapon that most departments are carrying, in their hand. Now, Chief, and I go into him, hey, Chief, are your guys spark testing every day? Which is a requirement under all our training programs that say spark test, which is we turn the unit on, pull the trigger, let it run for 5 seconds.
Okay.
Well, let's start with this. Our battery gets you 3,000 full 5-second cycles.
3,000 cycles, and each one is
5 seconds.
5 seconds long. Okay.
Compared to 197.
190. Okay.
So you're getting 15 times
the
cycles.
Massive difference.
And those batteries are $40 each for both of us. So right there, you're saving your department $60,000 or $600 in just batteries on one unit.
On one unit over the course of a year?
It just depends on how often they're spark testing.
Right.
Now, see, some departments, every shift they're like rental units. They're like loaner units. So they go up in the cabinet when the new officer comes in. So some departments are spark testing minimum 3 times a day.
So they're just running it down.
They're just running it down.
Yeah, you're getting to that $40 replenishment really fast.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then we talk about the cartridges. You got these departments that bought maybe a case of 300 cartridges.
Okay.
Our cartridges are interchangeable. So if you have Taser X26 and you have their cartridges,
Yeah.
you can take their cartridge, put it right in our file, right in our.
So you haven't lost anything if you made a big spend like with last year's budget.
Exactly.
So you spent a bunch of money because you had some left over and you're like, let's get a bunch of darts because, we're about to lose this budget money.
And at $30 a cartridge or so,
Yeah.
if they bought 100, that's a pretty penny. It's $3,000 right there.
I wouldn't want to kiss that goodbye.
Exactly. We have a rechargeable battery.
Okay, now hang on. What happens if somebody says, we don't use this type of weapon at all? What happens if they just say, like, we're not on board with this because for whatever reason, we, don't think we have budget to have, a sidearm and a conductive weapon,
Mm-hmm.
or B, we saw some studies and we decided that that's for types of incidents that we don't have in our jurisdiction. Like, do you pursue that, or
Absolutely.
are you now kind of backing off and waiting for them to learn?
No, you always pursue that lead.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, budget's always going to be a concern if they were the FBI, a federal agency.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a finite number of dollars.
Exactly. So it's not a limited fund. So we understand that aspect, and that's why we brought you a better cost weapon.
Yeah.
We're not charging you $1,000. So that's for one.
Mm-hmm.
For two, we also address that concern with, listen, we understand that your budget may not, or we feel that our department doesn't need that. But I'm sure a lot of departments feel that way.
Yeah.
And, I worked in a department where, a college department, do we really need this? I don't think we've had any deployments to date.
Well, hang on though. I mean, did you actually have like a traditional weapon, like a Glock or whatever?
Absolutely.
So if I'm a college administrator, I really want to talk to the Taser/Phazzer crowd.
Absolutely.
I can't imagine how bad that would go if it went the other direction.
It's a tool. And it's another tool we carry on our belt to try to minimize the risk. It's your job to educate those individuals.
Yes.
And, there's federal studies. There's the Department of Justice does a study every 4 years that says, here's what departments that are using conductive energy weapons, less injuries, less suspects going to the hospital, less suspects receiving medical treatment. Because whenever we don't have an intermediate weapon such as a Taser or a Phazzer, we're resorting to a higher level of force. Baton strikes.
Yes.
Batons have been around forever. Now they're just a little bit smaller, or they're more, they're collapsible or expandable. But me hitting someone full force in the arm or something like that normally ends up with a broken bone. Versus me being able to deploy this weapon on somebody, control them within the 5-second cycle, and being able to apply handcuffs and everything within that 5 seconds.
In a lot of businesses, when you do sales, one of the things that you're doing is you're replacing something that they're using. Right now, there's so little real estate on a standard issue like 511 belt, right? So if I'm you, I'm at least tempted to see what happens when I say, you don't need that baton anymore. Is that a realistic goal, or am I just completely blowing smoke right now?
In some cases, I do see that.
Yeah. Have you ever tried it?
I have a big enough waist. I don't need
Yeah. Brandon is truly a physically intimidating person, and it's a good thing I'm already walking the straight and narrow path. That's all I'm going to say.
So, we experience this with a lot of female officers where they're maybe 110, 120 pounds, and they're small. So what we've done is different things with their duty belts, where we would, instead of having handcuff pouches, we'll use handcuff straps, where it only takes up about an inch and a half of the belt space. So there's ways and methods. We do leg holsters on sometimes where they're able to put in a leg holster on the opposite side.
But I want to know
firearm.
if you've specifically challenged somebody to remove a baton.
No.
We got to try that, man.
Why? It's a tool for that officer. I
just want to see what happens.
I don't want to decrease their tools.
So I'm the guy, I'm the pitch mechanic, right? Like I'm the guy who sits here and goes like, I have to turn over every rock in the backyard. Okay. And again, I'm sitting here looking at it as a finite resource, right? How much belt space you have is a finite resource. Mm-hmm. And if a baton is designed to be like a weapon to subdue, and a Phazzer is designed to be a weapon to subdue, I would at least want to see where that pitch took me. That's it. Nothing more than that. It's purely academic curiosity.
Well, let me help you out on this one.
Yeah.
So we would prefer to recommend removing the OC spray we carry.
Okay, there's an opening.
Because our weapon system here.
What does OC stand for?
Orisium capsium.
There it is.
Capsicum.
Okay, got it. It's the pepper spray. Yeah.
It's the pepper spray.
Yeah.
So what we developed in our Phazzer system is a cartridge that deploys a pepper ball
Yeah.
and a pepper powder. So all we'd have to do is take the one cartridge off, which is the darts that shoot out.
That's perfect.
And now you have a cartridge that's able to deploy both.
So did you do that? Have you pitched that?
I have.
And how'd that go?
Good. It's just, once again, another tool they have.
Yeah.
A lot of people, like, for instance, I don't carry them on my person.
Right.
But most of officers carry what's called a go bag.
Mm-hmm.
And in that go bag, we have another set of handcuffs, oversized cuffs, OC decontaminations, whether those are Sudocon wipes or baby shampoo. All
Right.
those are items that we carry in our go bags in case something would go wrong. Additional ammo, things like that. So, I put my cartridges attached to my go bag. So, if I'm going to a big fight, I'm most likely going to take off my dart cartridge and put in a pepper powder or a pepper ball cartridge, because now I can disperse a crowd. Like, our pepper powder is good for 8 feet.
There you go.
So now I just shoot that in the middle of the crowd, and I can get that crowd to disperse by contaminating all.
And potentially save your own life.
And
because that's the nature of the go bag, if I'm understanding
Absolutely.
it correctly. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's just another item that we can use to go forward.
So what's standing in the way right now? If you had a magic wand, what obstacle would you take out of your path?
A lot of the doubt. A lot of individuals, because when it comes to Phazzer electronics,
Yes.
there was a couple companies, Carbon Arms.
Mm-hmm.
They invented a weapon called the Stinger.
Okay.
And that weapon, once again, was another electrical control weapon.
Okay.
Well, Phazzer sued the pants off of them, for lack of better terms. So when you got Goliath there, they have resources, they have money, they have, millions and if not billions of dollars that they can throw at lawyers and their own legal teams and those things.
So you like that fight. You like the David and Goliath story.
I do, because here we are. We just won the USPTO. We were sued by Phazzer as well.
Okay.
And
it doesn't seem like that's that much of a stretch. If I were them, I would probably be looking to sue everyone in that space because they've got the leverage.
And they got the money.
Yeah.
We're a small company. So,
So the Patent and Trademark Office reviewed a case against you.
They reviewed it and rejected all Phazer's claims. They claimed 18 patent infractions, and the USPTO kicked all of them.
I got to ask, though, how long were they able to tie you up in court?
Well, we're still tied up in court.
Well, but how long did it take to get to the judgment you just got?
So right there was about a year already.
Not as bad as I might have thought.
No, because ultimately everything's at the USPTO.
Yeah.
And they were saying, hey, we violated what's their main patent, which is 262, which basically says, hey, we're the only ones able to develop this weapon.
Got it.
So, now we got that hurdle out the way. We'll do a press release and stuff like that, because that decision just came down on Wednesday.
Oh, congratulations.
A couple of days ago. So now that we have that out,
so weight off your shoulders.
You have no clue, because now you can move forward with going to these departments and saying, listen, what they said was a violation. Here it is from the USPTO. It's not a patent infringement. So that was our biggest hurdle, and we're slowly removing that. And, we'll still have a couple more court battles with Phazzer, I'm sure. But that was the big one of, hey, the USPTO saying we're clearing the board of that.
That's fantastic. So in terms of sales, how does it work? You have, 5, 10, 100 people out on the street. How are you doing that?
So we have master distributors. So, for instance, in Pennsylvania, which it's Whitmer Public Safety Group, they're based out of Coatesville, PA.
Mm-hmm.
They handle Pennsylvania and pretty much the Northeast.
Okay. I got family in Coatesville. I know exactly where that is.
I'm sorry.
Shout out to Coatesville. Oh, that's terrible.
There's nothing in Coatesville. So, we have master distributors around that kind of handle everything for us. And whenever we do sales, a lot of our sales come from our office out of Kissimmee.
Mm-hmm.
We do a lot of advertising in like Hendon Publishing, which is like the Law and Order magazines and Tactical Response magazine.
I'm assuming you're like GSA. Do you have that figured out yet?
We do not as of now.
Okay.
We did some testing with the Air Force. We went back and redesigned a couple things, our cartridges. What happened was they were jumping out of a plane. It was the Air Force TAC guys. They were jumping from planes, and we had a cartridge.
It's kind of what they do.
So whenever that static electricity built up, it deployed the cartridge, which now we went back and made the correction of that. So little things like that, because like I said, we're a new company. We started in 2010. So
You're very young then for this space.
We're very young for this space, but we've made a lot of progress in the last 3 years or so. We've really been pushing everything.
We've got some folks that are associated with the show that might be able to help you with the government sales piece.
Okay.
That could actually help you get that schedule set up. Don't let me forget to get you those details later.
Great.
Now, on the one hand, you've kind of cleared the path for somebody to come in, just fund you to your absolute eyeballs, right?
Right.
And go huge.
Right.
Is that what you want to do?
So we've taken a process of growing slow
Yeah.
for two reasons. One, if we have issues with anything in our weapons or cartridges, we're able to correct those fairly quickly
Yeah.
and fairly cost effectively.
Yeah.
The last thing we want to do is say, okay, we're going to go out and produce 1 million weapons, and
Terrifies me.
it terrifies all of us. Holding inventory and things like that cost money.
Yeah.
So
that's a major gamble.
Our approach has been different. Our approach has been pretty much everybody prepays for their order. So instead of, having a lot of POs out there,
Yeah.
trust me, in the security business, there's times where, a net 30 is now a net 90 because by the time they pay you, it's net 90.
It is absolutely worse too when you're David.
Oh, absolutely.
Goliath can make your life very difficult.
And that's
David, on the other hand, you can string him along forever.
Right.
And unfortunately, too many people take advantage of that. And too many people put companies out of business
because of that.
by playing games with payment.
Absolutely. And that's sometimes the hard part to deal with. And, you got to be careful on how you approach it. You got to be kind of sensitive to, hey, you don't want to be like, listen, you owe me money, if until then I'm stripping services. Because there's always that other company that will come in and do whatever you need them
There's
to
somebody dumb enough to come in and take a bad pay customer and continue to reward that behavior.
Exactly. And that's the problem in all our businesses, especially when you're small. But really focusing on Phazzer, we're just going to continue, crawling and walking before we run. We're going to focus on, building our bank, building our business. We don't have loans, and that's what we take great pride in. All of our stuff was done off of our own internal funding. So we don't have a capitalist firm or any.
So you don't have to satisfy someone else and their priorities and sort of their direction.
Right. And it keeps our bottom line greater. When you start taking, hey, we're going to charge you X number of interest rate, or we're going to take this much, or we want this much, it's a lot more difficult.
That's super clean.
Absolutely.
I mean, we all aspire to that.
Right.
Very few of us can actually pull it off.
And, and maybe in the next year or two, we may look at it and say, okay, listen, now's the time we have to figure out something different.
Yeah, I do think that this judgment is probably kind of going to change your life. And that's the only reason I asked the question, is because on Tuesday, you thought, we have to make sure that we can survive anything.
Right.
Now, the biggest existential threat that you've ever faced is kind of
the weight was lifted.
You're working with Phazzer and you see an opportunity for Homeland Intelligence and Protective, right?
Right.
What now? Yeah, I mean, is that an agreement you have with them where you that's an open field as long as you haven't, sort of poisoned the well?
So that's kind of, I know this sounds weird, but
it's delicate.
That's kind of where Blue Line comes in.
Okay.
And I know we haven't talked about
really
that a lot. Blue Line, believe it or not, started off as a distributor for Phazzer Electronics. That's kind of how I got involved in them.
Right.
And then, me and there's a guy named Jim Laurie. He's a chief of police down in McKees Rocks in Oakdale.
Okay.
He's my business partner with Blue Line. And we kind of said, let's take a look at this weapon and, we'll go from there. So Blue Line Training Consulting started before everything.
Right.
And our purpose of Blue Line Training when we started that was to develop better security officers.
Okay.
We're a certified lethal weapons training school, which is what's called Pennsylvania Act 235 in the state of Pennsylvania. So we're certified to teach all 235. So our purpose was to create a program in which these students from Pittsburgh Technical College and anyone else would come in and get a better education.
Yeah.
Instead of just being a security guard meal, I guess is the best way, where we're just producing and saying, you owe us money, you owe us money, you owe us money.
You were doing the high touch thing where someone could be proud of getting a better quality education for firearms handling.
Right. And they were getting certifications and other things. Like a lot of people don't realize, even though you have a 235, which is your lethal weapons certification, technically you're not certified in batons, OC spray, taser, phaser, or whatever else. So we offer that in addition to that. So when we came on board, with Phazzer in this case, we said, listen, we want to become an instructor and handle your instruction in Pennsylvania for you, because we already had an established training school. We had everything set.
I love this. This is perfect.
He says, great.
It's a natural fit.
It's a natural fit for us. They weren't popular up here at all. Nobody really knew about them.
Typically, a company like that gets popular in its backyard first and then explodes outside of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when we were on board, we're like, hey, so we called the COO, his name's Steve, and I said, hey, we want to become certified, blah, blah. And he's like, well, you're going to have to call a guy named Captain Ken. I'm like, all right. So we called him and said, we want to become your master instructors or your senior instructors up here. He says, well, send me your resume. We'll see if you qualify. And we took over the training and we went through the United States just training different departments, And that was the fun part at first, where you're traveling and you're getting to go to California and you're getting to go, Utah and places you've never been.
Yeah.
It's fun for about the first few months. And then you're just like, I don't want to travel anymore.
Travel on somebody else's dime is like that thing that we all go, oh, like that's how I know I've made it, is when they start flying me places. And then you go like, making it sucks.
Exactly.
I miss my wife, right?
And you don't realize that until you're just on the road all the time.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how Blue Line comes into this. So we're the training side. So we were also the distributor in Pennsylvania. Now, once again, we weren't focused, we didn't have a storefront where we were selling out of the storefront, but, we had enough connections in law enforcement departments and different places where we're like, hey, take a look at this weapon, try this weapon. And, that's how we kind of got started in Pennsylvania. Yeah. And then Whitmer Public Safety kind of came over, and they're a monstrous company compared to us, and took over to Pennsylvania and kind of the whole Northeast, which I'm good with. And we continue with the training.
Again, with the natural fit, though, right?
Exactly.
It's like distribution is we're actually going to do a complete show on distribution because of how complicated it is.
And your 30 minutes isn't going to do it. I can tell you that now.
It's really, honestly, the rabbit hole, and it goes so deep. So I honestly think you dodged a bullet there.
Yeah, we did.
Or a dart. There it is.
There we go.
Or an OC pellet.
A little bit of everything.
I'm learning so much about these weapons in just this conversation.
Well, what you guys don't see is we're going to probably try to do a video of you getting hit with one of these.
Negative.
It was worth a shot.
Not in 1,000 years.
No.
It's going to get stuck in my fat, and I'm not going to like the way that
we
feels.
We won't shoot you with the darts.
Okie dokie. That's okay.
No.
Stay tuned. It might happen. I don't know. How would people get in touch with you if they want to reach out after hearing this? Is there a social media account that that you want them to use, or a sales email that they should go through?
They can always reach me at any of my email addresses.
Any of them.
But the main one I answer that comes directly to my phone that I have on me at all times is Brandon at homelandintelligence.us.
Just like it sounds.
Just like it sounds.
BRANDON at homelandintelligence.us.
Correct.
All right.
And then we'll turn to resources. If it's something, a Phazzer related question, I'll flip the email accounts and you'll get a response back from that email account. So.
I love that. No, man, I love the hustle. I really do.
Well, it's important to be there, and it's important that, you're out there and doing what you can, and big part of giving back to the community.
You wouldn't even believe the people that we've spoken to on the show where I can't keep up with them. I mean, and I'm not that old, right? But I mean, like I run out of gas trying to keep the schedules that they talk about, because every once in a while you go, what would it be like if I tried to? So the second episode we did was with a gent named Nick Jordan, who, among other things,
investor.
Yeah, he's an investor and he's a venture capitalist. Thank you for listening, by the way. And yeah, Nick does like a 17-hour day, 6 days a week. And I got exhausted just hearing how he does it, because I was trying to get inside of his head and figure out, like, why is it necessary and whatever. And his time management skills are impeccable. He was a body man for a congressperson, and he learned that, there's 5-minute meetings and there's 10-minute meetings and there's 15-minute meetings. And, you got to do transit time like this. And, you got to do your research at this time of the day. And he's got everything on lockdown.
There's a way to prioritize, and, it's ABC things, and, and I'm in the process of moving.
On top of everything else.
Yeah, that's the stressful bit. I'm actually moving to Florida. So
are you?
I'm moving to Windermere, Florida.
We are going to miss you.
I'll still be around. Obviously, business is here.
That's what moving means.
Fortunately, I got businesses here in Philadelphia. I have 2 businesses here, and still have operations in Philadelphia that I have to be here for. So
one snowflake falls, and look at you.
Running.
You're turning tail. Brandon Womack, many different hats worn, Phazzer Electronics, Homeland Intelligence and Protective Services, Blue Line Training and Consulting. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Well, that's it for the 12th episode of the Pitchwerks podcast. Thanks for joining us. As always, I'm going to ask you to rate and review and subscribe and just push all the buttons. Do it for me. It's really important to us. Most important is the feedback, though. You can always find us on social media at Pitchwerks. Some of you have already stepped up and given us some really good feedback. I'm trying to give you more of what you said you want and less of what you said you don't. Don't forget, there's an extended version available on the website through our Pitchwerks Premium program. Try saying that 3 times fast. this is something where if you heard some things that you liked and you want to know more about how exactly Brandon went about building these businesses and getting to such success, especially at such an early age. Again, he's only 34 years old, and I would say he's an unqualified success. Make sure to check out Pitchwerks Premium at pitchwerks.com, Pitchwerks. Until I catch you in about 7 days, take care of yourself.
The Pitchwerks podcast comes to you from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, a production of the Epicast Network and McTaggart, LLC. Engineering and production by Buzzy Torek and Nick Miller. For more information, show feedback, and ad sales, visit pitchwerks.com, Pitchwerks.com. On social media, find and follow the show on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram using that same brand name, Pitchwerks.